Oh, right. Hi everyone. Sorry, I know we're just waiting for some more people to come upstairs. Some people are going to watch it from downstairs, which is fine, suits them if that's what they want to do. I have been given some key points to go through, so I'm not just going to be rambling, which is quite nice for all of you. So first of all, obviously, thank you everyone for competing. I hope you've had a fabulous time. I know there's been challenges and difficult to decide what idea to work on and so on, but hopefully now you all feel a bit of a sense of relief that it's all done, and also had a really good time. So just before I introduce Sheree, who's going to be doing a lovely talk for you, all of you, I just wanted to let you know how the judging will go this afternoon. So the live presentations are going to be at 3 o'clock, and the top 2 teams from each category, meaning these notes don't make sense. No worries. Be the top. Okay, yeah, the live presentations at 3 o'clock will be the top 2 teams from each category, meaning we'll have 6 live pitches. Between now and then, obviously after we have our keynote talk from Sheree, we recommend every team goes away, have a bit of a practice with doing your presentation like you are going to be one of the winning teams to go through to the live pitching. Just helps you to get a bit prepared. If you're not very confident when it comes to pitching, feel free to come speak with some of the Showco team. There are definitely a few of us who do this on a daily job. There's 2 of them sitting in the middle right there, so pick on them, not me. I've done enough talking this weekend. So if you do want some help with presentation, then do let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you out. Question. Yeah, go for it. So last time it was 5 minutes. I believe we're sticking to that, Egle? 5 minutes for the pitch? Yeah, we'll stick with 5 minutes. Keep it short and sweet. There will be someone counting it down so you can stay on track. But it is very sharp. So as soon as that 5 minutes comes, bam, down. Like you can't keep talking. So just be careful to get to what the product is. It's great to have a start story, but if you only get through why you decided to pick the idea and not actually what the idea is, then obviously the pitch is going to be marked down. So just bear that in mind when you're talking and try not to ramble too much, which is what I'm doing, so don't do what I'm doing. So what I said, got a little tip here from Alex. So he said, what you can even do is record a video of your practice pitch and upload it to your project tomorrow. Next week, we'll be looking at all your project videos and giving our favourite a £500 prize. Ooh, more money. I mean, maybe I'm in the wrong job. Okay. Final word before passing over to Sheree is that at 2, we'll be in here to announce the finalists, chat about what's next for Athena, and of course, announce the scavenger hunt winners. Is Sam even in the room right now? Oh, he just came in. There we go. So we'll be going through all of that. Then after the live pitches, we'll announce all of our hack winners, including the winners of the R2, Factory, BlackRock, and Kudos prizes. Any further questions? No? Perfect. Right, Sheree, I'll hand over to you.
Cheers. Thank you. I apologise in advance. I'm a wee bit under the weather, so if I have to stop to choke, that's why. So bear with me. It's also why I'm keeping distance so I don't give anybody the tail end of my cold as well. So I'm Sheree, and firstly, congratulations on getting this far and doing all of the work. I can imagine you're all very tired, so I hope my lovely Irish accent will waken you up and give you a perk for the rest of the day. I'm a multi-award-winning leader for my services to diversity and inclusion in the industry. I've been doing this work for about 12 years now, and I started my career as a software engineer, maybe like many of you in this room as well. I used to be a Scala developer working on high-profile public sector projects here in the UK. I'm the Global Diversity, Equity and Inclusion VP at Valtech, who is one of the platinum sponsors here today. So I hope you've had a chance to head downstairs and have a chat with some of our team, because we're consistently looking out for great new people to join us in the work that we do. and I'm an advisory board member at Women Who Code. Women Who Code is the world's largest non-profit globally dedicated to women in tech, with over 330,000 global members, a presence in over 80 cities, and we have a London branch, as you can imagine, as well, where we run free monthly meetups in all of our locations on what is being hired on, what people are working on with specialists, ultimately to help people get the jobs they want for the money they deserve. And I am a contributor at Forbes. I write too much, I think, probably, where I write about unearthing privilege through data and systems and processes, and really making sure that we create inclusive technologies and solutions as well. And that's also what my book, Demanding More: Why Diversity and Inclusion Don't Happen, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, and what we can do about it. And that was listed as one of the Financial Times best books when it came out last year. So, enough about me. Well, actually, no, I'm going to talk more about myself now, too. I'm at Nirashika on Twitter if you're that way inclined, and of course, you can get me on my website, too. But I want to take a step back. So what I really wanted to do today was share a little about myself, my journey, where I'm at now, and give a wee few tips to you, too. Maybe you'll find them useful, maybe they won't necessarily work for you, but hopefully you'll be able to take away something, too. So if we take a step back, this is me. Yes, I was very cute. No, I don't know what happened. And this is me and my brother, David. Like I said at the start, you can tell, hopefully, that I'm Irish. Some people think I'm Scottish, but not quite. But I was raised in Ireland since I was 3 weeks old. As you also might be aware of, most Irish people do not look like me, because I was adopted at 3 weeks old from Sri Lanka, which is the tiny, tiny country just below India. I was raised by a working class Irish family in the north of Ireland. Has anybody been to Ireland? A few people. Oh, that's nice. Leave a good review. But I was raised in the north in the 90s, so I'm 31 now. And in the 90s, there was much, much less immigration, as you can probably imagine. Now, to the extent that when me and my brother were adopted, people used to come to our house to see us because they'd never seen people of color outside of the TV. Yes, that's funny. Also, it's weird and kind of creepy, I think. But what can you do? There's a real conversation here when we talk about being the only, and I'm sure almost everyone in this room understands what that feeling is like. You know, stepping into your meeting, your boardroom, your whatever room it might be in, and being the only person like you. Now, I know few of us maybe also have the experience of being the only in your family, in your extended family, in your school, in your village, for example, and then the wider sphere as well. Now, certainly that was something me and my brother really, really faced. We always made the joke in secondary school and primary school, when you got the massive long photo of all of the students in the school, some parents found it really hard to find their kids in that photo. It wasn't hard to find me and my brother. So there's some benefits. But what I want to talk about ultimately is how that changes how you think about yourself. When you're consistently the only, how you view maybe your own importance or lack thereof, whether your voice is deserving of being listened to or not, or your insights actioned or not. And certainly growing up in Ireland, having a lot of the privileges, which I'll talk about as well, also facing quite a lot of racism, as I'm sure many people in this room have also faced if you've grown up in a very white space, if you've grown up somewhere where you are the minority, potentially from an ethnicity or race perspective, or from other facets as well. But for me, there's also a conversation here on the nuance of privilege and underrepresentation, which was one of the things that I write about in my book and in my TED Talk, which is being adopted from Sri Lanka. I've been back to Sri Lanka. I found my biological family and so on, and that's been a very complicated experience, which I've also written about too, if you're interested. But actually, the conversation of what underrepresented means where you're at right now. Underrepresented in Ireland and underrepresented in Sri Lanka are two very, very different things. They don't quite line up for obvious reasons. Now, coming to Ireland has given me access to opportunity. And this is how I describe privilege. When we talk about privilege, we're talking about access to opportunity. Now, all of us could see opportunity, let's say, all around us. But if you don't have access to it, what's the point? It might as well not exist. It might as well be completely dead in the water because you're never going to get to it. Now, growing up in Ireland, my family were working class, actually ended up severely disabled, so were on benefits, and I grew up on free school meals. Now, whilst that's a very clear story of being underprivileged and underrepresented, I was still able to get access to grants and bursaries, to go to university, be the first in my family to do that, be that person to create generational wealth that didn't exist before me, and that's a privilege. I've had access to opportunities that, very frankly, I wouldn't have had before. Now, that really takes me to the journey, I guess, I've had right now, which is of highs and lows. Everybody has highs and lows. I would be lying to you if I said everything was like all up here, because there's been moments where it's been very down here, and certainly I think it's going okay now at the moment anyway. But when we talk about privilege, what I think is really important to talk about as well, and it's something I write about a lot, is the privilege of how we exist. And a really good example for me of that is my name. So my name's Sheree Atcheson. I have a very thick Irish accent. I can speak some Irish as well. I'm immersed in Irish culture. So if you, for example, does anybody watch Love is Blind? I know that's a really cheesy show. But me and my husband, who's a white Irish man, so for the context of people that don't know Love is Blind, you talk to someone in a pod, you don't know what they look like, then you decide, I love them after 2 minutes, let's get married, it's great. And then they open up and it's like, wow, who is this? Maybe I don't love them anymore. But I was like saying to my husband, like if you were talking to me in that pod, I'd talk about growing up in the same area in County Tyrone. I'd talk about, you know, all of the experience of being Irish, etc. But if I didn't mention the very different experience I've had as a brown Irish woman versus you as a white Irish man, you'd open those doors and you would have no idea I was going to be brown when I opened those doors. And my name gives me that privilege. My name was almost Nirashika Atcheson, which is my Sri Lankan name. And everybody knows about the research that's been done into bias around names that are not Western. And the privilege of anonymity when I was an engineer very early on in my career was very, very different. You know, I can apply when I was a junior software engineer and a senior software engineer, a Sheree Atcheson from Belfast, and nobody bats an eyelid. Then I turn up to the interview, of course, and things are different. But now, as a senior VP, I don't have those worries so much. You know, if you Google me, my face is everywhere anyway, so I'm clearly not hiding. But I've had lots of different roles. So I started my diversity and inclusion leadership career at Deloitte, which is one of the big four. And I guess when we talk about highs and lows there, for me, one of the things which was a huge high in that moment was that I had a really phenomenal sponsor. I had a woman who very much saw potential in me that I guess I maybe didn't even really see at the time. And she was a senior partner of the Northern Ireland branch of Deloitte, and then also now she's the People and Purpose partner of Deloitte across the UK as well. And her name is Jackie Henry. I always talk about Jackie a lot because I think sponsors provide such a phenomenal difference in careers. Someone who advocates for you, someone who gives you a voice, someone who gives you an avenue to speak and stands back and stops getting involved. That's real sponsorship. It's not really about them, it's ultimately about you, but they give you that line, that path to walk through. Now, on the flip side of that, you know, certainly working in Deloitte, I held leadership roles that people maybe 10, 15 years older than me were also holding. And that meant I felt quite a lot of bias, to be honest, as a younger senior woman of colour. Those two words didn't really connect for the firm. It didn't really compute for them that someone was younger with different perspectives could also be senior and leading huge, huge teams, making big, big differences in a very red-taped organisation. Now, whilst I was doing all of this work, and when I was an engineer before that, I found women who code. Now, I've already talked about what that organisation is, but ultimately where I came in was 9 years ago now, I think. That feels like a really long time. But 9 years ago, they were primarily in San Francisco and Bangalore in India, but not really anywhere else in between. And so in Belfast, one of the problems I really, really had was that there were places for women and other folks to come together, but you had to pay. And I hated that because I was like, I'm acutely aware of the value of money. You know, just if you can afford £5 to go to a JavaScript event, but you can't, does that mean you're any less worthy of that knowledge? The answer is obviously no, I would hope. And so for me, the problem here was that we were creating more exclusion. And I've written about this in my book. I call it Exclusionary Inclusion, where we're trying to make things better, but ultimately we're still excluding the same people that we don't relate to, usually poor working class people for the most part, that are also disabled and so on. So I looked at Women Who Code. Women Who Code didn't charge, and that was already a tick, tick, tick in my box. So I took it to Belfast. I branched it to Edinburgh, London, Bristol, where else? Somewhere else as well, I can't remember now. And across EMEA anyway. And so my role was building up remote leadership teams, creating self-sufficient chapters, where ultimately I grew them up, and then I stepped back. Not too far back though. I haven't fell off a stage in all of my years of doing this yet, and I wouldn't want this to be the first time. No, I don't need that as a PR stunt. But I made mistakes in that role as well. You know, that was my first real, I guess, step into leadership. I held on to it too tightly, which ultimately unempowered some of my team, because I was like micromanaging, really, at the end of the day. I was 22, really figuring out things, but I learned a lot about my leadership style during that. Then I moved from Deloitte to Monzo and was their first head of diversity and inclusion, which was an experience, lots of highs, lots of lows, lots of leaving. And then I went to Peakon, which is a global experience platform that measures how people feel about engagement, about diversity and inclusion. And I'm a huge fan of Peakon still now. You know, we use it in Valtech as well. I helped create the product that measures inclusion, and that's something that's really important to me. How do we actually understand inclusion at scale, as opposed to me having, let's say, I don't know, 60 or 100 one-to-ones with each of you? I can't do that. That doesn't scale. How do we do this sustainably? And that's where Peakon comes in. And then I moved to Valtech just a year and a half ago. And for us, our work has been so focused on embedding equity into what we do here in the UK and the other 50 plus places that we are around the world. What we're really trying to do here is ultimately change some wrongs. There's been mistakes made in the past. We have to be honest about that. And embed things in like succession planning, supporting people through our Accelerating into Leadership program, which the UK is a part of, where we really hone in and support underrepresented talent up through our ranks. And for me, that's something that's really important to me, how we ensure people like you, for example, from all different backgrounds, have an ability to be on this stage too, hopefully, sometime as well. And then to now, very quickly, I wanted to just circle through things, because I think one of the problems we have as underrepresented folks is that we don't pat ourselves on the back enough, and I hate that. Some people will say it's arrogance, you shouldn't care what those people say at the end of the day. And so I've done a lot of really great stuff, but there's some things that I don't want to say more proud of than others, but let's say that anyway. And the main one actually is this photo on the top. So I went to Queen's University in Belfast. Now when you're growing up in Ireland, going to Queen's University is a huge thing. Like, I don't want to say people dream about it because that's kind of cringy, but it is like that, especially for my parents. Having someone that went to that university was like an unbelievable thing. Anyway, they have a Graduate of the Year award that they have had for 33 years. And in 2019, I should know that, in 2019, amongst all the other awards that I've won that's been really great, but that one, in the 33 years that it had been ran prior to me, no other women of colour had ever won that award. And then they rang me, and I thought it was a spoof call, and it said, oh, we've nominated you for this and you've won. And I was like, right, okay, that's right. And it's like, no, actually. And it was amazing. I got to have my family all come together back in Ireland. There was a big gala to celebrate me. Who doesn't love being celebrated? Got all dressed up. And it was really beautiful to have something rooted in Ireland and Irish culture that celebrated a woman of colour. I think that's incredibly important. And then I've done all these other things with like BBC and stuff. But I think the main thing for me is that when I started following different steps that I'm going to very quickly go through with you, and I don't want to run over because I don't want to take too much of your time, is that opportunity started to come to me. And I think within reason, we can control certain things within our lives. We can't control everything. I would never say that we could, but I do think that there are things that we can do can help us step forward, I guess, into new and different things. And I'm proud of all of these things because ultimately it's given me the ability to be who I am right now. So the first thing, and I've said mentor or sponsor, and this is why I mentioned Jackie earlier. I think for me, there's something incredibly powerful when you find someone that can help with you getting from A to B because they are already in B. One of the things with me and Jackie is that now she's not my sponsor anymore, but actually now we're colleagues because we sit at the same level. And I think that's amazing because now we can both have conversations around how we're creating global D&I strategies while she helped me reach that level as well. But find someone that can help you with that. And now, it might be someone in this room right now. I mentor quite a lot of people because I think it's really important. What I also do is I help people find mentors. Now, there's lots of programs and stuff out there that can help you do that too. If you're not sure, you're more than welcome to add me on LinkedIn and ping me with what you're looking for in a mentor, and I'll do a post about it, and someone will reply on that will probably suit you if you don't have one already. Also within your organization, think about how you can contact people too. It never hurts to ask. Yes, you might hear no. Try to forget that it's just one instance of no that you'll receive in your entire life and move forward from that. Something that I did, I guess, much earlier in my career, especially when I was moving from engineer to tech business consultant to D&I lead to head off to group VP and so on, was spending a lot of time understanding my own growth and strength areas before someone else tells me. Now, who here has ever received a performance review that they didn't agree with? That few, I think there's bound to be more than that. Definitely more than that. Lots of people receive feedback that they don't necessarily agree with, and also maybe there's feedback you get that you do agree with. What I would always say to you is analyze your own journey in the way that you analyze other people's. You know, when other people come to me for career advice and so on, yeah, I'll sit and I'll talk and I'll understand what they're talking about. I'll really help them delve under like this top layer of what actually is the strengths and the growth areas. But what if I never did that for myself? Someone else is going to do it, and then it's going to be riddled with bias and assumption. So really spend time understanding what that is for yourself. I've spoken at hundreds of thousands of events now at this stage. I've spoken at the Nobel Peace Prize, World Economic Forum, and a whole host of places in between. And I don't get nervous. It doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't faze me because I'm acutely aware of what I'm good at and also the things I need to get better at. So actually, if someone doesn't want to listen to me, that doesn't affect me either way. I still get paid anyway, so it doesn't matter to me anyway. But yes. And a really good point, you know, you're all here together from all different companies, I would assume, all different backgrounds. Find your group, and I guess that's one of the reasons you came here, actually, was to connect to people, to share with people, maybe to listen to me, hopefully, and some other folks as well. But actually finding people both like you and not like you, I think can be really useful in changing perspectives, understanding other perspectives, being more empathetic, but also, especially given that so many of you sit within tech-related roles, you create the solutions of tomorrow. It would be really great if we created solutions of tomorrow that didn't add in additional exclusion into the world than we already have. So really bursting that bubble with who you connect with, I think can be really, really useful. I know I'm overrunning, and I'm really sorry. I want you to pace yourself. This is one of the things I tend to find when I start to mentor someone at the start. I get them to fill out a one-pager. I get them to tell me, what are your goals and why? And then they go straight to, okay, by 3 years, Sheree, I want to have done this. By 6 months, I want to have done this. And then, like, my immediate response is, has the last 2.5 years not told you that we have no control over time whatsoever? The world will change like that, and whether you want to do something in 2 years or not is not necessarily the goal that we want to set. What I want you to focus on is where your skill level is at and actually how you feel in certain moments. What is the milestone of how you feel? And I know that sounds fluffy and cringe, but what I really, really mean is that when we set goals that are entirely time-based and we don't meet them, we tend to then run ourselves into the ground. We tend to focus solely that we haven't reached goal X, instead of recognizing that we've also maybe reached goal A, B, C, D, E, F along the way, but we're so focused on this time that's really boxing us in. So really try and avoid that. What I also say is pacing yourself. And I do the same for D&I strategies. You know, everybody wants to fix the world. like that. They want to do 13 initiatives in 1 year, and they think that they're going to be able to do that. Time and passion are finite resources. We can't do that. Choose 1 or 2 things that you can really, really focus in on across 6 months, across a quarter, across a performance review cycle, and really, really communicate those clearly to whoever is deciding whether you get promoted or whether you don't. One of the biggest pitfalls with a lot of people that I've started to mentor is that they have really great goals, but they've never communicated them to the people that decide whether you get promoted or not. That also means those same people don't know the growth goals that they want to give you, the stretch assignments, for example, so then you can reach those goals. Keeping this in your head is of no use. I know it's uncomfortable to talk about some of these things, but I also think it's really important too. And what I also think is never saying no within reason. And this is something, I guess, when I look back at my career, and I know I'm 31, I'm sure I'll do more stuff as well. I'm actually okay not doing anything else for a while, to be honest. People always ask me what's next. And yes, I have another mini book coming out. But aside from that, I just want to go on lots of holidays, to be honest. And that's what I'm doing at the minute. But what I did do earlier in my career was that I never said no to so many things. Like, when I started Women Who Code, Computer Weekly reached out to me to do like a guest blog, and then they liked it. They were like, "Do you want to keep writing for us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure," but I don't really know what I'm doing. I did English literature for A level, but I'm a really bad writer. But now I have a published book. When my publisher reached out to me last year, at the start of the year, in 2020, before everything went downhill, I'd never written a book before. I'd written for lots of great publications and short form writing, but I don't know how to write a book. And they said, "Would you like to write one?" And I sat with my husband and I was like, "Don't know if I should do that." And he was like, "Well, why would you not? I mean, if it's rubbish, it's rubbish." But I'm sure it won't be, so give it a go. And I gave it a go. I didn't realize I was going to have to write it in the middle of a global pandemic. Wouldn't recommend. But either way, not saying no has opened up huge opportunities for me. And I think when we think about that balance that we want, please prioritize your mental health. I think it's so easy to focus on getting to up here. I want to be a VP, I want to be C-suite, whatever it is. But actually, if we don't prioritize how we look after ourselves, it's very easy for that to fall to the side. I know earlier in my career, when I was ultimately doing all of the leadership with Women Who Code and also a full-time engineering role, I burnt out, and I learned a lesson from then that I would never do that again because it was difficult. It was really, really hard to come back from. And back then my boyfriend, now husband, I was very lucky to have him to support me through that because it was really, really hard. I didn't know what to prioritize. I didn't know what was important and what wasn't, so I did everything. Now what I want you to think about when you're not saying no to good opportunities is to think about, 1, what are the growth areas that I have and what are my strengths? 2, how do these opportunities lay into either of those things? And 3, will I get something out of this, or am I saying yes because I'm grateful someone gave me a job? All too often I talk to people that I hope that was a good one. All too often people say yes to opportunities in work because they are so glad they have a job, because they come from similar backgrounds to me, poor working class backgrounds. What I think is really important is to recognize if you were not good at your job, you would be fired. That's very, very clear, and that's very, very honest with you. You do not have to be grateful to every single opportunity that comes to your door if you don't feel like it ticks one of those 3 things, okay? Really, really look after yourself and your mental health, and obviously physical health too. And then, I need to go back. Oh my God, hold on. Nightmare, mate. And then the last one, like I said, which you'll hopefully have gathered by what I've already been talking about by myself throughout this, is always be your #1 fan. Never be the person who says no to you because someone else will do that for you. Someone else will self-select you out of the process. They will say you're not good enough, oh, they're not the right person. Do not be that person for yourself. Spend that time, if you're able to understand your strengths, your growth areas, your whatever it is that you want to achieve. If you want help, I'm happy to find, I can't take on any more mentees at the minute, but I'm happy to help you find people if you can't. But spend time really championing yourself. You know, all the great work that you've done here today, all of the connections maybe that you've made and everything else, talk about it. Talk openly when people ask you, what do you do? Why do you do it? I do my job because I'm really, really good at it. That's why I do it. Otherwise, why would I do something that I was rubbish at? That would be silly. Nobody wants to do that. So spend time understanding yourself, spend time prioritizing yourself, and try and jump forward, maybe even just a wee bit if you can. So, like I said, my book, Demanding More, is quite literally available everywhere. It also features chapters on privilege, on actionable allyship that isn't just for people we identify with, on engaging senior leadership, middle management, and it also has great interviews with senior leaders like Kike Onowinde, who's the CEO of Black Young Professionals Network, Kate Robertson, the CEO of One Young World, Anne Boden, the CEO of Starling Bank, people that have created inclusive systems and technologies as well, because that's something that's really, really important to me. And if you do get the book, please do let me know what you think. Unless you hate it, then keep that to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheree. That was great. Yeah, lots of tips. I saw everyone like making notes, taking pictures as always. So thank you for all of that. Just to let you know, there are now sandwiches downstairs. As you know, we love our food and are always going to have lots of supply of food for you all. So if you want to go have some lunch and just sort of chill out, is there something else I'm meant to be saying right now? No, that is it. So we'll see you at 2, okay, for the scavenger hunt presentation. Thank you, guys.